Hello, ELED 450 students. I am here to give you some information about our final that will be taking place during finals week. So please listen to all the information that you have today. Go ahead and start thinking about the reflection questions and bring any questions that you have about this process or project to me on our class on Monday, December 8th, or feel free to email me if you have questions or give me a call as well. So the first thing that I am going to do is I'm going to pull up a PowerPoint. I will share this PowerPoint on D2L as well as the rubrics that I'm going to show you. So hold on just a second. Oops, that's not the correct PowerPoint. Hold on. There we go. All right, guys. So really the purpose of today, like I said, is so that you can understand the requirements for our final assessment of this course. There are going to be two versions based on if you are a face-to-face student or if you are a student that takes the course online or through distance learning or DDN. So make sure that you understand the difference between the two types of finals. One part is the same and one part is different. So here we go. It's a two-part final. The first part is a field experience reflection. There are some application questions or essays that you're going to be writing. This is going to be in the form of a D2L quiz that I will explain further. In just a minute, I'll tell you what the questions are. The second part is going to be a World Cafe discussion on our growth in the course objectives based upon your pre-assessment reflection that you did at the beginning of the course. Or if you're an online student and can't participate in the discussion during our final time, you're going to write a 1 to 2 page written reflection on the same topic and turn it into the Dropbox. So it's, like I said, a two-part final. So the first thing I wanted to do was outline the two essay questions for you. So the first essay question is focused on our course objective that was centered on understanding the Common Core reading standards. You guys are well aware that we spend a lot of time studying the Common Core standards and figuring out how you could use those standards to effectively teach reading. So then in your field experience, you taught two different lessons that were both centered around the standards. And you had to break those standards into student-friendly learning targets to drive your teaching. So you're going to pick one of those lessons to reflect about, okay? And so that's the main purpose of this one, to take one of those lessons that you taught and think about it deeply and reflect upon it deeply. So your writing points for this essay are to name the standard, and how you broke it down into learning targets, and then to talk about how unpacking those standards helped to focus how you taught the lesson. The next step would be to think about how you assessed your students. Whether it was formative or summative, you should have had some way to assess the students. It did not need to be a formal assessment where you were collecting scores, but you should have some recollection or notes about what the students said or did, or what the students wrote during the lesson. So you're going to use that assessment information to think about, how did my students do with the standards, all right? So either they did really great or they didn't do so great. To me, that whether they did really well or didn't do so well doesn't matter so much for this question. More so it's, can you decide if they did well or didn't do well, and then come up with how you would do it differently if they didn't. And even if they did, what might you change, or what worked really well so that you could keep it the same. So the final point that you'll write about is, based on what happened in the lesson and the student's success or lack thereof with the standard, what would you change and keep the same if you were to teach it again? The reason I want you to think about this is, as a teacher, you're going to use similar lessons from year to year, especially once you get into it and start to feel more comfortable and confident with the lessons that you teach. That being said, odds are you're never going to teach it exactly the same way twice. So myself as a teacher, I carried lessons from year to year to year that I would reuse. However, after I taught the lesson each time, I would need to think about what went well, what didn't go well, what do I need to change for next year, what do I need to change for tomorrow to make sure it goes even better. So it's just this idea of constantly reflecting and refining upon your lessons and thinking about how you could make it better. And I want you to practice doing that with this particular essay question. And the main way you do that is to think about your evidence of how your students did, right? So what did they say? What did they do that gave you a clue that they got it or didn't get it? So that is the first essay question. The second essay question asks you to think about the course objectives that were centered on the structures and strategies necessary to effectively teach reading at the middle and elementary school level. We talked about whole class instruction and small group instruction structures. Those structures that we talked about in class were read alouds, shared reading, independent reading, word study, guided reading, and strategy group lessons. What I want you to do is choose 2 of those structures listed, only 2. And then I want you to write to the following points for each. So first of all, I want you to describe that type of instruction in detail, including how to do it and why it's important to include this type of teaching in your class. You will want to refer to the course text as you are talking about this, so that you have specific text evidence to support your thinking. Then, once you've described each point, I want you to connect those components to either something that you observed or taught in your field experience. So let's say you observed your teacher doing a read aloud. I would like you to describe that read aloud, the purpose of the lesson, the evidence that the students learned during the lesson, and then I want you to think, if this were my own classroom in the next couple of years, what parts of this lesson would I keep? And do similarly, and why. So how are you going to apply that to your future classroom? Or same thing if it's a lesson that you taught. What was the purpose of the lesson? What was the evidence of student learning during the lesson? And what would you keep the same? So resources that you could use for this, your observation protocols would be excellent resources, because some of this writing you may have already done in those observation protocols if you did them well. Also, looking back at your lesson planning or lesson reflections that you included, especially in that next steps box in that lesson planning format that we used, that would be places or resources that you could use to help yourself think about this. So those are the 2 essay questions. I am going to suggest that you do some pre-writing on these before you put them into the quiz box. And in just a little bit, I'm going to show you the rubric that I will use to score these that will help you guide your writing. Okay, so let's talk about the logistics of this and how it's going to work. I don't think that with those 2 essay questions that you need to be in my classroom to write about those, especially since we have some of you that are online and some of you that are face-to-face. So essentially what I will do is I will open that quiz on December 10th at 8 a.m. And that quiz will close on December 12th at 3 p.m. Our final time is from December 12th from 1 to 3. So essentially we'll have till the end of that final time to write about this, but you can submit your quiz anytime between the 10th and 12th. That doesn't matter to me. Now the second part of our final is the World Cafe discussion. So really more of a verbal assessment of your learning and your growth. And to me, the point of that is to I guess, celebrate the learning that we did and think about how we will apply it to our future classrooms, because I think you guys did some excellent work, and I think that there will be a lot of great things that will happen in your classroom in the future. So our World Cafe discussion will begin on December 12th during our final time at 1 p.m. I'm guessing that it will take approximately an hour, so it will end at about 2 p.m. Then, if you are done with your final exam, you will be free to leave if you are a face-to-face student. if you would like from 2 to 3 to sit in our classroom and finalize your essay questions, you are welcome to do that. So I will be available from 2 to 3 if anybody would like to stay and finish their writing during that time. Also, if you are an online or DDN student, you can feel free to email me or make an appointment or call or Skype me if you have any questions, since you won't be able to come to this face-to-face time to ask me questions about your essays before you submit them. The one thing that I will tell you is that, or just remind you of, is that both parts of your final, if you are an online or DDN student, need to be submitted to me by 3 p.m. So now I would like to give you a little bit more detail on that cafe discussion and or cafe writing that you're going to do. So what's going to happen for those of you that are face-to-face students is that you will come to our final time, and we will split up into small groups. I'm going to talk to one person about being the ambassador of the meeting, and the rest will be travelers, meaning that they will provide insight onto each of the questions. If you are an ambassador or you volunteer to be the ambassador, you're really going to be the person that becomes an expert in that one area. And so your job is going to be to kind of gather the big ideas and themes and record those ideas on a graphic organizer to share at the very end of our discussion if you are the ambassador. So the purpose of this is really just to reflect on our course objectives and to think about which activities were the most effective in helping you to achieve that growth. The purpose of this is really twofold. For you, the reason why you are doing it is to think about, you know, am I prepared to teach reading according to these objectives? And how do I know that? And kind of think about you know, why you should be confident as you get ready to enter into your own reading classroom. The purpose for me is to gather some information about what worked best for you. So that way I know that if I hear something that worked best for you over and over again, that's probably something that I should keep the same as I teach next semester. And if something isn't mentioned, then maybe it wasn't overly effective and I might want to think about how to modify it. So I will ask you to do some preparation for this ahead of time. Pull up that objective reflection component that you did at the beginning of the semester and rethink about it, and that will really help to guide your discussion. So the discussion tables there will be 4 different discussion tables, and each table will have a different topic. The first topic will be structures and strategies for effective reading instruction, including informational and content area reading. So that really addresses 2 or 3 of our objectives for the course. The second table will be on the Common Core State Standards and what helped you to understand those the most. The third will be assessment and differentiation in reading, and I feel like you know, our objective for the course for this particular topic was to gain a beginning understanding, and so we didn't really dig deeply into that, but I would like to know what helped you to get that beginning understanding in this. And then as you get into ELED 454 and ELED 459, we'll talk more about that particular topic in depth. And then the final topic that we're going to talk about is lesson planning and instruction in reading, and thinking about what helped you to get better at lesson planning. And I will tell you, just from looking at your lesson plans at the beginning of the course to the end of the course, there's a night and day difference. So thinking about what helped you to become better. So that was the highlight for those that will be a part of the face-to-face discussion. For those of you that are online students, you're really going to go through the same process, but since you will not be able to contribute to the discussion, I want you to write a 1 to 2 page essay describing your growth in each of those components and giving me just some ideas on what was the most effective for you and where you think you are at now in comparison to where you were at the beginning of the course. So there will be a Dropbox for that, and the only people that will need to submit to that Dropbox will be online or DDN students. So that's the end of my slideshow. The next thing that I want you to look at is our rubric, and I am going to put this on D2L so that you could look at it more closely. But essentially, there will be 45 possible points for your final, the first question will be worth 15 points, and this is how I will assign those 15 points. I don't think that it's going to serve you guys very well to have me read these to you, but I will tell you, between proficient and advanced, I did bold what makes it different so that you could see how you can turn a proficient score into an advanced score in your writing. And then we have basic and below basic scores as well. That's for the first essay question that we outlined. Here's the rubric for the second essay question, which is also worth 15 points. So you can take a look at what the difference is between the two. I didn't bold this yet, apparently, so before I post it onto D2L, I will bold it for you so you can see the difference. And then finally, you will also get 15 points for the World Cafe discussion. And essentially, I'll be just looking to see that you are thoughtfully participating in the discussion, or I will look that you have composed a thoughtful written reflection and submitted it to the Dropbox in a timely manner for that one. So like I said, 45 total points. Please let me know if you have any questions on how this will be scored or concerns as to how it will be scored, and I will be happy to address that with you. So like I said, I will put this information on to D2 to D2L, and that way you guys will be able to prepare and feel ready to go for your final. And like I said, let me know if you have any questions or concerns, and I would be happy to help you. And as you are doing pre-writing, please let me know if you have any questions or concerns or wonders about that as well. So hope you guys have a great Wednesday. I will see you Wednesday and Friday and final field experience. Don't forget to send me those small group lessons if you haven't done that already, and I can provide you with some feedback before you go out and teach them. And I will see you on Monday, December 8th. So please bring me those questions that you have about the final work then. Have a great day. Bye.